All right, good afternoon everyone and welcome to today's webinar with Microsoft Citizenship. My name is Christine Holland from Connecting Up and I'm really pleased to have all of you attend today. It's a very special webinar as we have three great panelists on the line today. They're all going to be talking about youth and technology. We have our first panelist is Arsenio Alegre from WorkVentures. He'll be talking about how WorkVentures reach out to young people and help them use technology better. And then we'll hear from Gigi. She's a Microsoft student partner in the Philippines, and she has a really strong passion in music, and we'll hear from her on her inspiring journey and how she used technology in combination of her music in her daily life. And finally, we will have Johnson from Epic in Malaysia, and he will be talking about how his not-for-profit organization uses technology, and also as a young person himself, how he aspires to that. So before we begin with the presentations, I would just like to do a couple of housekeeping notes. So for those of you who are new to joining our webinars, if you do have any questions anytime during the presentation, please type them in the chat box or question box, and then we will address them at the end of the presentation. And also maybe if you have a specific question to any specific presenter, just tell us who the question is for. And also this session is being recorded, and so you'll get access to the recording and slides afterwards as well. So once again, I would like to welcome all of you. We've got attendees from Australia, New Zealand, India, Taiwan. So we've got everyone from all around Asia Pacific. So it's great to have you all. Before we begin with the first presentation, I'll hand you over now to Jillian from Microsoft Citizenship to kindly give a few words, as this webinar wouldn't have happened without their support. Over to you, Jillian.
Thanks very much, Christine. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us, whether it's your afternoon or your morning. We're thrilled to be hosting Arsenio, Gigi, and Johnson on today's call and bringing this to you as part of our Tech4Good webinar series. Microsoft supports the nonprofit sector in terms of capacity building and their use of technology, and this webinar series, as well as other events and different training sessions that we hold, are all meant to support the nonprofit sector and in their use of technology, and specifically how nonprofits can reach out to youth in their use of technology too. So thank you very much for joining us. After today's webinar, you'll also be receiving a copy of our monthly Tech4Good newsletter, and through that newsletter you can find out about free webinars and training sessions and other free resources that are available to the sector from Microsoft. So thanks very much, and thanks to Connecting Up for co-hosting this webinar series with us. Over to you, Christine.
Thanks, Jillian. All right, well, without further ado, I'll hand you over to Arsenio, as I said, from WorkVentures, and he'll take you through a couple of programs that they do for Indigenous youth and just youth in general in Australia as part of their IT and traineeship. So over to you, Arsenio.
Hi, good day. I'm Arsenio Alegre, the CEO of WorkVentures. I'm usually based in Sydney, but today I'm calling in from a hotel room here in Manila, and this afternoon I'll be attending a brother's wedding. And hopefully you can see the slides. I'd like to start off with a quick rundown on what WorkVentures is. It's one of the oldest Australian not-for-profit social enterprise established in 1979. We have over 100 full-time employees, and we've been a partner of Microsoft since 1986. In fact, Microsoft was established in just a year before that, in 1985, and at that time Microsoft was a small privately owned franchise with 30 employees. And that relationship has blossomed. In fact, it's a very long-standing partnership of 27 years. In 2005, that partnership was actually recognized through the Prime Minister's Award for Excellence in Community Business Partnership. And hopefully in another 3 years, on the 30th anniversary of this partnership, we'll win another award. In 2012, WorkVentures was the recipient of the Australian Business Award for Community Contribution. And this year, we won the Internet Access and Digital Skills category of the Australia-New Zealand Internet Award. As an organization, our mission is to connect people with choices, but the responsibility for execution always remains with the individuals. And technology is a key enabler in the work that we do. We work with people from a broad range of levels of disengagement or exclusion. We work with young people, for example, in juvenile detention centers who face very high levels of disengagement. And we also work with young people in schools who are more willing to be engaged and can actually, with the appropriate help, be able to create a better pathway for themselves. An example of an activity that we do is the computer refurbishment. We are the largest not-for-profit Microsoft registered refurbisher, and early next year we would have distributed 50,000 refurbished computers to disadvantaged households in Australia. Not only does this activity provide an environmentally sustainable disposal system of superseded equipment, but also it provides within WorkVentures opportunities for training and employment. For example, every year we put through about 130 to 150 work experience students through our production area. We also hire on formal traineeship programs between 10 to 20 young people in the production area or in our call center. We are what you call in Australia a registered training organization. What that means is that we meet the requirements of the Australian Skills Quality Authority, and so we're able to train and issue nationally recognized vocational training certificates. We recently just passed a rigorous audit, and we'll get our license renewed for another 5 years. Now, in conjunction with our vocational training program, and in addition to placing young people within WorkVentures, we do place young people with other employers as well on a formal traineeship. And this year we would be placing about 45 young people, and half of them in IT certificates and the other half in business administration certificates. Now, we do our work around Australia, and one of the programs that we implement for young Indigenous people is actually a program we call I Get IT. It's a practical hardware-based training, and this year we've run 10 of these courses in the Northern Territory, and there were 98 participants, and we've designed this program so that we can actually issue a partial certificate. And it's not the full certificate, and you can see in this slide that it has 2 units. One is to operate a personal computer, and the other one is to operate a word processing application. Now, why did we do this? The target group is basically young people who have very low, if not, or in fact, zero educational attainment. And our thinking is that it would be good for them to be able to go home and bring with them a certificate that is actually recognized in Australia. And for the courses, the accreditation rate was very high, 97%. Almost all of the participants actually qualified to receive the Statement of Attainment. And this is a photo of the participants. The photo is actually for the participants of the course in Arnhem Land. The testimonial underneath it is from the course that we did at the detention center. Unfortunately, we were not allowed to take photos in the detention center for good reasons. And you can see there how well the course was received. And in the second paragraph, you will note there that most of the households in Australia for this target group did not really have computers at home except for one. The other thing that we've done is to create an online training tool. This combined English and computer training, and primarily designed for migrants and refugees. And so far we've had 400 plus registrations and growing. We've done since 2010 a range of programs for migrants and refugees, and we've actually assisted 5,600 people through a variety of training programs with support from Microsoft. And this year we piloted in 2 schools a more in-depth program with refugee students in Melbourne as well as in Sydney. And a feature of this program is actually participation from university students as well as employees from Microsoft. What we wanted to do was to actually expose the refugee students to people who are actually studying in universities and also working in a commercial organization, to get them to see and actually interact and learn from people who are actually doing it. And this is just an article written about the experience of a couple of the student participants from the University of Technology. So the program motivated not just the refugee students, but the volunteers as well. Now, I've shown you this photo earlier, and the reason of me showing it to you again is it actually describes, or it will describe, what we do within WorkVentures itself. The person on the right of that photo is Ian Lewis. He joined WorkVentures as an IT trainee in April 2008, and within 8 months he completed his Certificate 4 in IT because he's really very interested in things which are technical. Normally it takes about 1 year to 2 years to complete that certificate. He was very keen in joining us, so and at that time we had a permanent place for him. So we hired him, and in October 2012 he became an IT administration. But really, for me, the most motivating thing is that he showed interest in training other people, and we supported him to complete a Certificate 4 in Training and Assessment. And you can see there, he was the trainer in that indigenous training course in Arnhem Land. And the other fellow there, Scott Milne, is very quickly following his footsteps. So in summary, we've reached a total of 7,000 people, 5,400 through our computer refurbishment program, and 1,600 through a variety of training programs with a lot of emphasis on IT. In fact, just to end, I'd like to summarize what we do with really 3 key points. One is we tailor our approach to the needs and the level of readiness of our target audience, and we also incorporate formal certification in the training that we do. For young people, building up recognized credentials is really very important. And our training, to the extent we could do it, is linked to employment opportunities. Hopefully, I've given you an insight in terms of what we do in WorkVentures in engaging youth and using technology. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arsenio. We will have a couple of questions for you at the end. We actually had one already from Luke, so Luke, I will ask that at the end of all 3 presentations. So that's great. The next presentation will be from Gigi. Gigi is based in the Philippines, so she's a student of De La Salle University and she's a Microsoft student partner. As I said earlier, she loves music and she would like to use technology and music to inspire other young people who are interested in music and how they can use technology for their passion. So Gigi, are you? We can see your slides now, so I will now hand it over to you.
So thank you everyone. Hi guys. I hope everyone's doing well. So basically, my name is Gigi. As they mentioned, I'm based here in the Philippines, and I'm actually graduating soon, so that's pretty exciting. Okay, so basically I just want to give a brief history about myself. So basically, I love to sing, but I really can't play any instruments. And I'm also addicted to anything musically related, like the history of this band, why did they make these kinds of songs, everything of those. So I'm also addicted to using computers. I'm using it for games, for watching movies, listening to music, also watching videos. And I also love experimenting things. So why not mix everything, right? So this led me to right now. So my solution would be this one. It's called the digital music production. So it's basically just creating music using computers, which can be available online or offline. So these actually led me to creating music such as like beat making. Uh, Beat making is actually just creating beats out of music samples, like a 1 second beep, and then fixing it to a software. And also, these led me to mixing songs. So like the remixes that you hear, like 2 or 3 songs compiled into one. And these also led me to recording instruments of some of my friends who actually play an instrument to my computer, which eventually led me to demo making, which is creating a song or tracks in a song and actually recording it and create a demo. So basically, as they mentioned also, I'm also a Microsoft student partner. So I've been with Microsoft for almost 4 years now, since I was a freshman. So what did I learn during this adventure? So of course, I explored more software, like exploring more about Microsoft Windows 8, Windows Phone, some new stuff that I've learned. This includes one amazing thing called the online courses, which you can actually enroll and do courses with anything you like. So I recently took up songwriting, music production, and history of rock in an online course website called the Coursera, coursera.org. So you guys can check that out and actually, have free online courses there. I also had the opportunity to travel the Philippines and talk to students. Some of the schools in other areas, we're doing talks with Microsoft. So I also touch lives and inspire others by my story with the recent Youth Spark feature. So basically, Microsoft contacted me and was inspired by my story and actually produced a video which are now scattered around the globe. And this one actually, just to share, one of my half-sisters actually found me using that video. So it's just recent. That's really amazing because I haven't talked to her ever. So yeah, that's what technology did to my life. So for me, what would be the role of technology? So number one, of course, technology is a really tool for change. Why is that? Right now, the youth actually is very, very powerful in terms of using technology. Why? Because when I was young, of course, we have no social media. We actually play around, in the streets and with the friends. So now, you can see kids playing with their devices and computer games. So this actually changes the norm of the generation. So the tool, technology as a tool for change is really, really powerful. So the second one would be the technology helps you to be powerful. Personally, I wouldn't imagine myself creating music using an actual instrument. But what I did was I actually used technology to create music in spite of me not actually playing. I actually play uh, the instrument itself. So creating my passion using technology is actually very, very inspiring for me. And actually, I really want to share it with others using social media. So the last one would be technology is endless. So some of the people I've talked to with regards to all of the traveling with Microsoft is they're actually thinking of ways to how they could involve technology with one of their passion. One of those people actually came up to me and said, he really loves to paint. He likes art. He likes those stuff. So he's asking me how can I integrate that with technology. So what I told them was you can use photo editing tools or software that can actually entice your art into a digital form like Photoshop and other of those things. So basically, the technology and youth really goes hand in hand right now. It actually present themselves into a whole new level, which I really thought that, before it was not possible. So yeah, there. That's technology and youth for me. And I think that's really, really powerful for the youth. So there. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much, Gigi. That's great, and congratulations on completing your study soon, and all the best for that. Great. So again, if you have any questions for Gigi, do type them in now, and I will now pass on to Johnson. I'm just going to make him the presenter now. So Johnson is the founder and CEO of Epic Collaborative, which is a not-for-profit in Malaysia that enables people to make positive, lasting change in their communities by providing safe and secure homes for the indigenous people of Malaysia. He's also a member of Innovate for Good, a Microsoft Youth Spark program that encourages young people to work collaboratively and use technology to improve their communities. So Johnson, I will hand it over to you now.
Thanks so much for this opportunity. First of all, I'd just like to say that I'm actually in a roofing tile factory. So if you hear any background noises, machinery and things like that, then at least that answers your question. All right. So I think before I start, I'd like to show you a video. I think it should be possible to play this. So this essentially shows what we do.
There might be a bit of a lag, but it shouldn't be too much of an issue.
Okay. Sorry about the lag. Oh man.
Johnson, do you might want to talk us through about what we're seeing? Like, who are the builders? Are they the locals? Are they volunteers?
That's right. I'm so sorry about that. I tried it earlier and the lag wasn't there. Essentially what the video shows is our core activity through Epic Homes. So Epic stands for Extraordinary People Impacting Community. And what you probably saw snippets of was of ordinary unskilled volunteers building houses for the indigenous people in Malaysia within 3 days. Right, so just a brief background about our experience with technology. December 2009 was our first time organizing an event. to bring people together, and the objective was to build a toilet and to paint 12 houses. At that point in time, we're cynical about getting people to help us out, and we thought probably we would be able to get 20 people at max. So what we did was put it up on Facebook as an event where we thought, okay, maybe we'll get 20 to this event. We were very surprised because the turnout the turnout shocked us, where we got strangers passing our event through personal blogs and websites such as Couchsurfing. And the final turnout when we arrived on the site, we got 64 people, where 80% of them were total strangers who now are our new friends. And these people came from different countries, such as Germany, Korea, Japan, Sweden, Vietnam, and Singapore, and there were a couple more. And this was when we realized that, wow, things are really changing, and technology had a real power of bringing people together in a time of need. So through that experience, we realized two things. One, which was people want to serve, people are hungry to serve, but they did not know where to go, how to do it, what to do, when to do it, and who to do it with or for. The other thing that we realized was that people didn't see the point in taking action because they were not convinced that their action could make significant impact. It's again that classic question. I am one person, what impact can I make? So why try at all? So we realized that technology actually has the potential to make it possible for people to see the impact and the potential that they have, even though they may be one. And it's the story of Epic Homes and how we started, which has very much to do with my sharing of the possibilities of what technology can do for Epic and for the world in the future. And this was the first house that we came across when we were, and this was in a village. And we thought this was a storehouse, but later we realized that it was actually a man's house. And so the easy answer at that time was to say, let's build this guy a house. But then we realized that we weren't too bothered about the house itself, but instead we wanted to know what exactly was the root cause to a man living in such a place. We had many questions that troubled us more than the house itself, as to why would a man accept to live in such a condition? Why didn't he help himself? Why didn't other people help him? And so there were many questions like this, and we realized that to simply say that a man lives in such a condition simply because he's poor was simply not good enough. And so we, in the process of wanting to build this guy's house, realized that we wanted to find out what exactly was the root cause. And we realized that in order to find out what exactly is the root cause, relationship building was the key. Because we thought about it, and we believe that to simply just take a survey form over a weekend and sit down together with men and expect him to list out point A, B, C as to why he's poor and why he lives in such a condition will not do. Because if he knew why he was in this position in the first place, he'll be able to overcome that. And the other reason why we believe that relationship building was key was because as city people, we realized that in all our enthusiasm in wanting to help people, that we sometimes forget this fundamental step, and that's asking, how can I help you, or what can I do, or what do you need? Because we come in with our preconceived notions in a short amount of time that we have, and we want to take action, we want to do what we want to do. And we realized that not only was that a waste of a lot of resources, but that also caused a lot of hurt with the orang asli, or the indigenous people of Malaysia. Because when they don't understand why exactly they're receiving aid, then we believe that in the process of accepting the aid that we're giving, we are taking their dignity of choice away from them. And so that's really the background. And then we ask ourselves, how can we provide this man with a house, and at the same time create an environment where we could show this guy our care or our genuine love? Because to simply just raise money, pass it over to a contractor, get the contractor to build the house, and then a month later come back and ask and tell the individual person saying, look, I've paid for the house, can we now be friends, will not be good enough and will not be good enough to build a relationship. And that's when we came up with this crazy idea to make building houses as easy as IKEA or Lego, where we could build together with the people themselves, so that they will be able to experience our culture, people from the city, because indigenous people live, they live in the village and sometimes in the jungle, and so that they'll also be able to know that we genuinely care. And that turned out to be a success, even though in the beginning there was many doubts. And we've built 17 homes so far, and I think the latest house that we've built was shown in the video, which was lagging quite badly earlier. So what happens in this building system is that it uses the modular building system, where based on the size of the family or the type of land that you live on, we'll know how big the houses should be or how to shape the house. Because what we realized that in dealing with this, with the indigenous people and their living environment, that they live in a very dynamic environment. So there's no way that a one-size-fits-all template will be able to be applied across the board. And so we needed to come up with a solution that will allow for rapid customization. And so that's really the background of our building system. How does this really involve technology? And this is our dream. I wanted to share this with you. And for those who play Sims, this is really this is Sims, where you can actually build your own house. Well, our dream is to be able to make this a reality, where we're able to pull up different components of houses. We make each component modular, and basically you will be able to sit down together with the indigenous person or whoever that you care for, whoever that's in need of a house, and be able to construct the house using an app, where if the component fits, it says green. When it doesn't fit, it'll say red. And the reason why we're doing this is because of our experience when we started, where we got to sit down together with the families and design the houses together with them. And what we found from that experience was a very powerful realization that when the recipient of the house is able to share his input or his ideas into how he wants his house to be, the sense of ownership after the house is built is really on another level as compared to some of the other houses that were given out just for free, where they didn't really have a choice. The other is really a personal belief of ours at Epic, where we believe that, or we define poverty as a mindset. It's not really a financial line, but it is a mindset. And the differentiating factor between a person that has and does not is really the power of choice. So a person that has money, I guess money signifies the ability to make more decisions and more choices, and a person who is poor is a person that lacks choices. A lot of times he's forced into circumstances. And so if we're looking at standardization of low-cost housing, then the same thing that's putting a roof over their heads, we believe, is also a constant reminder that they didn't have a choice in the first place. And at the same time, that they qualified for this house simply because they were poor enough. And that just perpetuates that mindset. And so probably some of you have heard about how can we, or some of you have asked, how can we really overcome this handout mentality, where after a long period of time where NGOs or the government provide aid for certain communities, we realize that these communities lack initiative and they don't want to push their own communities further. So these are some of the questions, and this is some of our ideas that's come out of asking these questions to ourselves. So how does it all work? We're actually in the midst of developing this system, which is online. You can actually check out a glimpse of it on epichome.org, where if you see the horizontal line that runs across, that's really the web system. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a collaborative platform where we enable different stakeholders of society to come together to contribute to key process areas of putting up a house. So for instance, for government and NGOs, they are able to help us in identifying families. So the templates are available online, you can download it, you can fill it up, and immediately it feeds back to the system to tell us that there's a house in need. From that point, we're able to send our volunteers, our what we call master builders or specialist builders, to consult the family on how they want their houses to be. And then we're able to crowdfund and gather funds online from individuals or even corporates. And at the same time, be able to recruit people to train them into builders, where people are able to see their performance in their performance as builders and track their projects and the activities that they've been involved in. And finally, we recruit and we build a house. And following that, people are linked up into the system where they're able to receive reports on the handover of the house, the post-assessment where we tell if there's been any flaws in the construction, or if there's anything that needs to be repaired, or whether the owners of the houses are happy or not. And finally, that's a complete epic home. So in using this, we're able to feedback to our volunteers or contributors or stakeholders so that they are as close as possible to the cause or the thing that they care about. So no longer does our organization stand in the way of sending reports back, but instead, through the system, they're able to get almost live updates. But that really isn't where it ends. For us, Epic Homes is really an entry point. So if we go back to the beginning where I'm talking about building relationships, where the house is really an opportunity to build relationships, so we're able to find out what exactly are the issues. And so this is really the beginning of what we're trying to do, which is to decentralize humanitarian collaboration. Because what we found out was that every single family has a unique reason, unique to their family, as to what problems they're facing or as to why they're in that particular condition. And we realized that previously a lot of people that's been trying to help this group we usually view them as a subject matter to simplify the executions. So when we see them as a subject matter, we forget that every single human being has their own unique issues, and the Orang Asli environment, like indigenous people environment as well, has 18 sub-tribes where there are different levels of transition from nomadic to a settled lifestyle, to socio-economical standards, to geographical, to different geographical locations. So it's extremely dynamic. And so there's no way that a one-size-fits-all approach, just like a house, can be applied across the board. And so this is still very rough, and this is really the next step in the system that we're developing. Where I'm just sharing you a sketch that I did, where if you follow the numbers, as one, where there are unidentified communities around, where the government or our partner NGOs are already in contact with them, and they can hook them up to the system. And that gives us an opportunity for us to connect a large community, so the large community, Epic community, to this particular village, where we're able to build relationships with them and find out what exactly are the issues that they're facing. And so if you look at the rings, the colorful rings, that really represents the type of solutions that are being implemented on the family. So the orange ring, for instance, represents building houses. So we find out that this family needs houses, so we built that. And after that, through the building of relationships, we're able to find out perhaps they have medical issues or educational issues that they are interested in and ready to accept. Then we're able to implement that. And so if you can see the different colorful rings, the layers of it really represents when these rings, programs or initiatives are executed. And it could differ from village to village, to community, to family to family. And at the same time, it also it will also eventually, even people who are not hooked up into the system will also be able to feel the ripple effects of these small communities working together. And what's really exciting about this is because of today's definition of what impact is. I've been to many organizations or many companies where we look to source for funds. And currently, a lot of times people look at impact from a with angle, where, say for instance, using a library as an example. When you build a library, and this is classic because a lot of times people say, you know, you're building a house only impacts 5 people, but if you build a library will be able to impact the entire village, 500 people or 600 people, and that looks really good on paper. But however, if you look at impact also from the area of depth, you're not really looking at how many people have the opportunity to read, but you're asking the question as to how many people are actually ready to read, how many people actually understand the significance of reading and what reading is going to help them with. And finally, the gauge of impact would be how many people are actually reading and are making themselves better people or getting more educated. And so we're looking to decentralize how we execute humanitarian collaboration or work, but at the same time also be able to hopefully redefine how impact is. And through this network, people are able to focus on their own villages, and other people are able to compare their situations and replicate solutions that they create in their communities. And because it's basically knowledge that's being shared, then boundaries no longer become an issue because it can easily cross boundaries. So this is just an example of it crossing boundaries from Malaysia, the Philippines to Indonesia. So we're not looking at just EPIC as an organization moving across the world, but the ideas that come out through the community that is able to spread really quickly throughout the world and be able to contextualize itself in different places. So that's all actually that I'd like to share of my experience with technology. I hope that was clear enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Johnson. It's really funny to hear how you compare it to The Sims. So did The Sims actually help inspire you with your idea for EPIC?
Yeah, it certainly did.
Great. All right. Well, we've basically heard from all 3 presenters. So we have had a couple of questions coming through. So I will now unmute all 3 presenters, and I'll just ask the questions in turn. And Julian, if you have anything, please feel free to jump in as well. So we've got a first question for Arsenio. Arsenio, okay. This is a question from Luke. And Luke is basically asking, when you run these nationally accredited courses in the community, what kind of retention rates do you have, and what type of strategies do you use to keep students engaged throughout the duration of the course?
Say throughout the past 3 years, we've averaged around the high 80s, around 87% is the exact number that I recall in terms of retention. In terms of the strategy, it's really tailoring our approach to the needs and the level of preparedness of the target audience. For example, with indigenous youth, we're working with young people who have really, sadly, very low academic attainment. And also culturally, they tend to prefer very practical approaches to learning. So we've designed what we call as the I Get IT program for them in exactly that way. It's very practical. There's nothing that's written. For us to be able to issue a recognized statement of attainment, we have to comply with certain standards. And the way we've overcome that is we've actually videoed the course as it goes on, so that when we get audited by the authority, we can demonstrate that we've taken the necessary steps to ensure that quality skills are being passed on to the participants.
Thank you, Arsenio. We have another question for you from Sarah. She thought your presentation was very inspiring. So she's just like to know, how do you shape the train-the-trainer aspect of the experience? Do you make use of mentors?
So can you just repeat that for me? It's a bit kind of wasn't very clear.
How do you shape the train-the-trainer aspect of the experience? Do you make use of mentors?
How do we shape it, and do we make it?
Do you use mentors?
Do we use mentors?
Yes.
Again, it would depend on the circumstances. An example that I can provide is that we did train-the-trainer programs for migrants and refugees, and the way we've approached that is we worked with migrants and refugee associations, and essentially we asked them to identify members of their organizations which show very high technical aptitude so that they can understand essentially what they're going to train at, but also, very importantly, the necessary communication skills or communications ability. And what we do then is train them ourselves and then get them to go through more observed training, and once we are comfortable that they're able to handle it themselves, then we just let them loose and train as many people as they could reach.
Thanks, Arsenio.
Does that answer the question?
Yes, that's great. Thank you. I might move on now to questions for Johnson. So Johnson, we have a question from Tarushni. You talked about couch surfing before. Can you explain a bit more on how couch surfing helped you?
Yeah, it was really interesting because we did a Google search to see because we got all sorts of people inquiring about the project back then in 2009. And so we were asking people, where did you hear about our event? And it turns out that somebody from the US that was not even in Malaysia was encouraging people and telling them, saying, hey, whoever that's passing through Malaysia during this time, please feel free to join these guys to build their toilet and paint some houses. And he basically put it up there where I think about 4 or 5 people from Couchsurfing saw it, and they were passing through Malaysia or they were already in Malaysia. So they decided to join us through that. So that's basically how it happened. It's very organically.
That's amazing. I guess it is about word of mouth as well, and obviously technology helped, very much. Thank you. Another question for you. You explained how you use technology such as social media to source volunteers for your organization. Were you also able to use technology to engage the indigenous people or the clients that you provide service for, or does this require people to already be linked to some kind of NGO in Malaysia?
So yeah, we were very successful in engaging our volunteers. So mainly people who are already city people, so they're already connected. Whereas with the Orang Asli or the indigenous people, what happens is that we connect with them through the liaisons or the NGOs that already are in contact with them, who have access to the internet. So we ask these guys. These guys usually go back frequently. They go back every week or every month, and they are able to feedback to us what the indigenous people are facing and share updates with us about any messages that the indigenous people are wanting to pass to the volunteers that they've met over a book. So currently, no, we can't access the indigenous people directly yet.
Thank you. A question here from Vicky. How do you think we can improve the experience of Indigenous Australians in housing them within city areas where they are hardly ever given a choice of design or location?
Well, I'm not too familiar with the landscape or the environment in Australia, but speaking from my experience in Malaysia and the indigenous people here, I think one of the things that we realized is that you got to thread. It's a process. Transformation is a process. So thread carefully, and a lot of times the solutions that you hand out or give out to them will require them to be part of the process. They need to understand what exactly are these issues, and at the same time be able to let them define what exactly is progress to them. Because what I find it with a lot of these urban relocation programs is that we are doing this with our own definition of what progress is, where we're saying that progress means that you need to be in the city, you need to be earning this amount of income, you need to be driving a car, you need to have a type of house. Whereas for them, coming from their background, they are totally self-sufficient in their environment already. So to pull them out of that environment into a totally foreign environment, and it really puts them on a back foot, and that really, and then you'll get the problem that we're all facing now, where these guys are now labeled as poor, because now using this modern system, they no longer can apply the knowledge and the skills that they have in their home environment, which is in the jungle or perhaps in the outback in Australia.
Thanks, Johnson. I might move on now to Gigi. Gigi, I have a question for you here. As a young person yourself, can you tell us from your perspective on what's the best way organizations can engage youth and communicate their messages without generating resistance or clutter? Because there are already so many messages out there, and especially as a young person, you know, being reached out and having so many things for you, how can people engage with you without getting that clutter?
Basically, you know, the youth should have this idea of reaching out to those organizations without anything hindering them. Because me, before, I was actually very scared when Microsoft actually came to our school and, you know, do some talks and everything. But for me, as a young person, we should really have an open mind on what our future or what we want in our future to be. So basically, just be brave and actually, you know, take some of those opportunities with different organizations that actually have events, going to them, you know, talking to these people, and, you know, just step up. Because when you step up, you actually have more opportunities than you can ever think of. There.
Thanks, Gigi. And just another question for you. You talked about that you didn't exactly play music, and I remember seeing on your video, play an instrument, but I remember seeing on your video saying about how you've developed your skills in music through technology. So can you elaborate a bit further on how has technology helped you develop your skills in music? Did you learn?
Okay, so yeah, okay. I really don't know how to play instrument, and it was only like 2 years ago when I recently saw YouTube videos on how to play an instrument. So basically, I sold some of my stuff and bought myself a guitar and, you know, just decided to play because using the exact instrument really has more difference when you use the digital one, because, you know, you can express yourself more when you're using an instrument. But using technology, like when you have limited funds or you don't have any money to actually, you know, go for lessons, you can just check out in YouTube and, you know, watch some videos on how to play this kind of chord, or use YouTube as well as to as a tutorial on how to play some of the things that you really want to do. And it really has a big difference when you do that. So there, now I can play.
Great. How long did it take you?
It took me 2 years right now, and I'm still learning. I'm still not good, but I'm learning. I'm learning a lot.
Are you going
using
to take
technology?
Are you going to try to use another instrument?
I did. Aside from guitar, I tried using YouTube to play piano.
Ah, great.
So, yeah, so I actually built my own mini studio at home in my room. So I have a studio there.
Okay, thanks Gigi, that's great. Arsenio, just back to you here, a question from Ufna. He's basically wondering if you've got any plans to work outside of Australia with developing countries such as Pakistan and on any collaborative program, and how do you have these courses online, if you can talk more about that as well.
Okay. Well, that's a very good question. In fact, it's a very timely question. About a week and a half ago, I was invited to a CEO roundtable organized by the Hong Kong Social Services. And through that I met the CEOs of other NGOs in Asia Pacific, and specifically the one that where I thought we could take some actions immediately is an organization that is based out of Australia. It's a training organization. I think the name is SOL, S-O-L. And they do programs in Laos, Cambodia, East Timor, and so on. One of the things that they do is actually computer refurbishment. A very small number of computers they refurbish, but using students in the programs to actually do the refurbishment, and they're able to then provide the computers to disadvantaged communities. Now, I thought, well, you know, in Australia we are going to have access desktops as people's preference shifts to laptops and as well as tablets. And so what I'm going to do is, in fact, when I go to Singapore or go back to Singapore, I will fly into Kuala Lumpur so we can then talk about this further, because there is an opportunity to work with them where we export excess desktops, and we can help them then refurbish the computers for distribution throughout Asia rather than Australia. So that's a specific, I guess, example which is always an answer to the question of, do we have any plans of doing something outside Australia?
Thanks, Arsenio. Back to you, John. Actually, maybe before we go to that question, Arsenio, I just want to take this time, if you can give any advice you have for organizations who would like to use technology better to engage youth. Can you give them any advice on that?
I guess the one that comes to mind is try and work with other organizations that in the same kind of sphere. And through sharing and learning from each other, you could come up with even better ideas. And it's good to be innovative, but also bear in mind that you don't have to reinvent things all the time.
Thank you. So back to you, Johnson. A question here from Tanushri again. Can you give more inputs on how long-term relationship building happened, especially with volunteers? What did you do to foster that?
Yeah. So it started with the building of houses, and what we realized was that the building of houses and being able to do it within even though it's done within 3 days, and that time is short, but the magnitude of the activity itself is so significant that the recipient of the house and the volunteers would remember that experience. So usually what that does is it breaks down the barriers as well, where prior to meeting an indigenous person, they are merely just an indigenous person where usually you donate money to. But instead now, they're no longer just an indigenous person, but they have names. And so usually what happens is, after a build, the volunteers would themselves take the initiative to visit the village every once in a while, where it could be because they're there just for the family, to visit the family, or maybe because they wanted to go to the nearby river or a hot spring, or to go fishing nearby. But along the way, because they know someone around the area that are their friends now, they visit them. And usually during this interaction, they're able to find insights that they can then share together with the team on what exactly are they facing now, whether it could be just as simple as that they're happy and that their kids are healthy, that they're going to school, or it could be items where they could take action upon, like For instance, someone could say, hey, I was speaking to this guy, and this indigenous person's kid is in school, and she asked him recently for a laptop. Perhaps maybe we can do something about it. And I think essentially that's how the long-term relationship building happens. It's a very organic process. You can't really force it. I mean, like all relationships. But we believe that through the activity of building homes, it really gives us a good shot at kickstarting a long-term relationship.
Thanks, Johnson. Before we go on, I'd just also like to mention that I understand that we've reached the actual scheduled time of the webinar, but we do have a couple more questions, so we will go on a little bit longer. If you're able to stay on the call, that would be great. But if not, we thank you for your attendance, and as I said, this is being recorded, so we will send you the link afterwards. So just a couple more questions before we wrap up today. Johnson, again to you. Raymond said congratulations to Epic Home and also to all of the other presenters. But here's a particular question for you in terms of what is the average years the house stand? How much wind can the house accommodate? And basically, can this idea be replicated to other countries?
Right. So the houses that we've constructed are we designed it from scratch. I didn't design it because previously the core team was made out of 4 individuals that had no prior construction background. What we did was we have worked together with over 40 architects and engineers to progressively improve the building. But of course, the prerequisite since house number 1 was that the house would need to stand. And so since then, the house and the materials that we've used, we've built a house and it's estimated to stand for 30 years with minimum maintenance. And so it's minimum maintenance meaning that they could use oil to just cover the steel or just painting, just ensure that that there's no rust and the house would easily be able to stand. Even the cladding that we use has a 50-year warranty on it. So I guess that's our indicator of how long it can last, because so far we've only existed for 3 years. Can it be replicated in other places? I would say that the house design per se may not be suitable in other places, because we've designed the house for the indigenous people, suitable to their not only their environment, but also to their culture, their lifestyle, their beliefs, because we co-designed it together with them. However, I believe that the principles that we've used can be applied, where houses can be easily put up, it can be constructed by people. The design of it takes into consideration the people that are going to be living in it. I believe that those principles can be replicated across, and the experiences that we've had can be replicated in the future. But currently, the solutions that we've had would only cater to the indigenous people in Malaysia. In terms of how much wind can it withstand, I'm honestly not the expert, so I won't be able to answer your question on that. But it should be able to withstand the winds that we experience in Malaysia. We don't have any typhoons or whirlwinds or anything like that, but we do have a lot of heavy rain and sometimes strong winds, but not as strong as a tornado.
Maybe the average cost per house?
It really depends on the size of the house. Currently, each house is going at 50,000 ringgit. I think in Aussie dollars that's probably divided by 3. Same for US dollar. Maybe about 15,000 US dollars per house. But that cost also covers the logistics, the admin and operation, and also covers the training of the recipient of the house itself.
And just one final question for you. So do you see technology playing a role in helping this community further? Do you have further plans after the housing?
Definitely. And that's what I tried to share earlier. And that's after the house is built, what's next? That's the question. And the what's next is really determined not by a study that's done in the city, but instead it's determined by the interactions that these now 30 builders they interact together with the family, and these 30 people are able to figure out together with the family what exactly are these next steps. And without needing to go to start their own organization, they can already kickstart it using the system itself. And once they deploy the solution, what happens is other people can also suggest solutions to them through this network, and at the same time learn from them if they find that the environment and a separate village that they're dealing with share similar conditions, a similar environment to some of the ideas that's been done before. So it's kind of, I like to call it like a rapid prototyping platform in humanitarian action. So that's really the future that I see using technology.
Thanks, that's great. Thanks for that. And just a final question for Gigi. You basically said you've been traveling around talking to other students and inspiring them about the use of technology in various, whether it's music, it's art. Now that you're finishing up soon, and I guess in the long term, what are your plans on how else can you inspire other young people around the country or even internationally about how to use technology to complement what they're passionate about and enhance that experience?
Okay, so the future, I actually haven't really decided yet, but I'm actually working on a project with some of the local artists here in the Philippines, whether I'm writing a song for them or creating applications, like mobile applications for them. So basically that's my plan as of now, to continue that and, still be with Microsoft, hopefully, and, traveling around, talking to people that really technology will bring them such power for whatever it is that they are actually wanting in life. So as of now, yeah, that's my plan, but it can change, really, it can change, but it's still gonna be music and technology all the way.
Thanks, Gigi. Thank you very much. So I would like to take this opportunity to once again thank Arsenio, Gigi, and Johnson for presenting today. Julian, do you have any final words to say?
No, that's it. I just want to thank everyone very much to subscribe to the Tech4Good newsletter that you'll all receive from Connecting Up, which is a monthly Microsoft newsletter through which you can find out about future webinars and events and other resources for the not-for-profit sector.
Thank you. So, all right, well, thanks very much for joining us, everybody. I hope you found the webinar useful and inspiring, and there's definitely been a lot of inspiring stories out there from Gigi, from Johnson and his work, and also from what Arsenio is doing for the Indigenous community and other youth and the young people in Australia. Great. Well, on that note, I will close this webinar, and you'll receive some follow-up communication with those newsletter recording and the slides afterwards. And we hope you will see you again at our next Tech4Good webinar series next month. Thank you, and have a very, very Merry Christmas, everyone, and enjoy your New Year break. Thank you, and bye.